Nick Loeb is the co-producer, writer, director, and actor of Roe v. Wade, the movie. In this film, Nick stars as Dr. Bernard Nathanson, a notorious abortionist who later converted to Catholicism. Nick began his career as a producer, director, and actor at Universal Studios, focused on M&A in corporate development, and then in motion picture finance. He went on to work on his first feature film, Primary Colors, directed by Mike Nichols and starring John Travolta. Mr. Loeb then began the international production company, producing The Smokers in 2000 with executive producer Quincy Jones. IPC went on to partner with Barbra Streisand to produce the 5-episode award-winning documentary The Living Century in 2001. Since then, Nick has worked on several films for the last 20 years with stars the likes of Bruce Willis, Billy Bob Thornton, Kathy Bates, Gerard Butler, Jon Voight, Tyson Beckford, Billy Zane, and Sean Astin, among many others. And now, tonight, we are blessed to have him here as he brings us this very exclusive screening of Roe v. Wade, the movie. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Loeb.
Bob, come back. My money for you and Molly and the organization. I'm only going to talk for a few minutes because the movie's about 4.5 hours, so I don't want anybody to fall asleep. No, I'm kidding. It's about 1 hour and 45 minutes. I just really Molly wanted me to mention that this is the third time that we will be shown in public yet before the release, the first time, and actually really the first time for a pro-life organization. So this is sort of the premiere for a pro-life organization for you all to get to see the movie. The reason Molly wanted me to speak before the film, and I just thought it would be better afterwards to do Q&A, because you guys are going to watch the movie and you're going to see it and you're not going to believe half of what you see. So you're going to say, well, that's not true and that's not true, and they made all that up. So you can either do one of two things. You can ask me the questions afterwards, or you can go to our website. We actually did a fact check page because the media thinks we lied. So you can see all the sources. And so I encourage you to have an open mind, watch the movie. Everything in the movie is 100% accurate and sourced. With that, I give you Roe v. Wade.
Anything that you saw, anything you didn't see, anything you didn't understand, or anything you would just like his comment on, please put your hands in the air and I will do my best to be fair.
Yeah, and also let me add, we are also doing a lot of organizations around the country are doing screenings of the movie before release. I know a lot of theaters aren't open, so a lot of people are doing virtual screenings for the members as well. Some are doing in churches or some theaters. So if anybody wants to do that, they can go to roevwademovie.com, read how to do it and send us an email and we'll help set that up, but we already set up a couple hundred already.
Nick, is that the only way for people to see the movie? Will it be streaming on any services?
Yes, it'll stream April 2nd. It'll be streaming on iTunes, Amazon. If you just have cable or satellite on demand, pay-per-view, Comcast, you'll be able to see it that way too.
If I may, I think I'm going to take the first question and just ask you, how did you feel? How long did it take filming and production of this movie? And how did you feel playing the character, especially when he was at his gruesome worst and prior to his revelation?
So the physical production of shooting, we shot in Louisiana, New York, and DC. Total shoot time was probably 4 weeks. 2 days in New York, 1 day in DC, and 3 weeks in Louisiana. To answer your question, but prep and post has been a lot longer. Playing Bernard was an incredible experience to be able to do that and to play sort of a vast array of emotions. I was able to take a lot from my own life, and I had a similar conversion story, although I'm not an obstetrician. But I didn't grow up pro-life and converted through my life, so I utilized a lot of that to in the character.
Okay, let's move around the room.
Very powerful movie. Thank you for what you've done. I hope it bears great fruit. One of the things that I noticed in the movie in portraying Dr. Nathanson, you were at the moment of conversion, it seemed there was a recognition, I'm a killer. And we don't see in the Ten Commandments the right to life, but we have thou shalt not kill. We see a duty, not a right. And I'm wondering if you can say more, if you knew anything about Nathanson. Did he see the right to life, or did he see his conscience saying, I'm killing?
You know, from what Bernard said in all his books and interviews and letters, he said he really didn't understand that there was a human being that he was killing. We portrayed Bernard to have a conversion in one moment, but Bernard's real conversion took over 10 years. Even when new sonogram technology got better, he continued to kill for another 10 years. And obviously we couldn't run the movie for 10 years, and we needed a dramatic effect for it to happen and come to fruition. So I think he just struggled with it all, and went back and forth on that. He didn't convert to Catholicism until years after his conversion to becoming pro-life either, and that was closer to the end of his life. So I think it was just coming, for the lack of a better term, a come to Jesus moment for him, right? When he realized they were human beings he was killing.
Who's next?
Thank you. I had a question whether what prompted the character or the true person of Larry to just seem like he had so much evil in him. What's the background?
For Larry, I think it ended up all about two things. I think it was about social recognition in society. Larry was a Harvard graduate. He was part of New York society. It was a movement at the time that he got swept up, was one, and that's how he made a living. I mean, it was money. I think it was money to get started, and it was how he made a living, and it was power, money and power.
Nick, I apologize. This may sound like a very ignorant question. I don't know how old everyone was in '73 when this went through, how long it went on after, et cetera. Are any of the individuals still living, and did anybody in the production crew or co-producers, anybody talk to anybody who was actually a part of this?
No. The only person still living today is Sarah Weddington, who was the lawyer for Jane Roe.
Okay.
I don't think she wanted to talk to me. So, interestingly enough, a lot of the conflicts of interest that we got from the justices all came directly from her own book, which she wrote about, how she decided on how they knew which justices were going to go their way or not. But nobody's living. We tried to talk to some of the relatives, but there was a lot. Most of the characters, a tremendous amount of material, not online, but really books. We really sort of hit it heavy with the books. Some interviews, whether they're in newspapers or TV, and then some letters of some of the justices. We found internal. We had even help from. I'll give you an example. I think a gentleman, if you haven't read a book called Abuse and Discretion by Clark Forsyth, who's involved with Americans United for Life. We got a lot of court stuff and the internal stuff in the courts from him and his book, and he had pulled a lot of internal letters between the justices, and we literally pulled dialogue directly from some of the letters.
Thank you. Anyone over here? Well, before I make my way over there, I do see hands over there. Well, how about this? Our fearless leader, Molly's got a question.
Nick, first I want to say congratulations. Wow, what an amazing movie. It's very powerful, it's very impactful. I'm wondering if you, when you do these movies, whether you have somebody that is there to deal with some of the emotions that it brings out, like from post-abortive women, from women who are just battling, and we were so used. And I'm just wondering if is there anything that you do for that?
You mean on set?
No, I mean do you advise people that there may be some fallout from this? I mean, obviously you don't want to do that to start with, because you go, ooh, I'm not going to do this one. So I'm just wondering though, how do you deal with that? And even perhaps on set too. I mean, was there a fallout from you are displaying things that are gut-wrenching, absolutely gut-wrenching.
I mean, again, you guys are really the only third audience that's seen this. So there's, and all the audiences so far have been friendly audiences. So we'll see when this hits the general public in terms of fallout. I'm sure there will be a lot. I'm sure they won't be too happy with some of the things that they see. But no, I've had, as I sort of mentioned, I don't know if I talked before about this, but I've had, the majority, interestingly enough, people see the cast and say, I've gotten negative comments from some of the left media. It's like, wow, look at that, conservative cast, and of course it's going to be. I'll tell you, you don't judge a book by its cover. Although there are Republicans in the cast, the majority of the cast was pro-choice, including most of the Republicans. I can tell you, one of my cast members who is a Democrat and pro-choice is now pro-life from making the movie. Now he still wants to work in Hollywood, so I can't tell you who that is. So I mean, hopefully we'll have more of that. Listen, on set and emotions dealing with film. I mean, actors are just used to dealing with that, and in general, from playing all different kinds of roles. Obviously, the most emotional, day for me was playing the conversion scene. And I had a directing partner who helped me through that, and she's almost like a sister to me. And I think when somebody's like a sister to you, she enjoyed making me cry the entire day. So that was fun for her. But no, it was great.
Nick, are you, I'm sure you are familiar with Abby Johnson?
I am.
Your conversion scene was remarkably similar to her description of her own conversion from Planned Parenthood clinic director to seeing that sonogram for the first time and watching it live and watching the baby being torn apart, to her emotional conversion. Have you talked to her at all about that? And you saw those similarities, I'm sure.
No. I mean, I know each other and spoken. We haven't spoken particularly about that scene, but I can tell you, it's not just Unplanned and it's not just Roe. But 80% of women today who go in for abortions who hear a sonogram change their mind.
Right.
And so it is the story of everybody today and how important and powerful the sonogram is today. And one of the interesting statistics most people don't know about, I think most young people who are graduating university today, although statistically they're trending more liberal when it comes to gay marriage issues and transgender issues, they're all actually trending much more conservative on the life issue, more than ever in history. And everyone said, well, why is that? Google. Now, Google may not be our friend in a lot of areas, but they can Google a sonogram. They can Google a fetus. They want to know everything and ask a lot of questions. And today, when you can see a baby, a fetus with arms and legs and a mouth and nose and sucking its thumb and moving, and you can hear the heartbeat, it makes it a lot harder to kill.
Absolutely. We have a question here.
I just wanted to say, in today's cancel culture and trying to make a living as an actor, thank you for your bravery and the fact that you may never get a job again in Hollywood. I just wanted to thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, we suffered a lot of backlash in making this movie. When we tried to raise money for it, Facebook blocked us and banned us, and this was 3 years ago before all of this. We were one of the first, and I ended up on TV talking about it with Tucker Carlson. Most recently, interestingly, I don't know if anybody knows what IMDb is. So IMDb.com is a website where you can look up actors and directors and all of this, and they have a rating. So obviously only two other audiences seen the movie, and so only, I think about last week, about 92 people had voted on IMDb, and you can vote on a 1 to 10 to give us stars on it. And I was super excited because although only 92 people had voted, they had rated our movie 8.9 out of 10. The next day, we got 10 more votes, and our rating dropped to 3.7. Can anyone figure out the math on that?
It's
Do you know who owns IMDb? Amazon. So when we questioned them, they said, oh, we have our own algorithm. I said, well, did your algorithm change? Because your algorithm showed an 8.9 one day and a 3.7 the next with only 10 new votes, so you must have changed your algorithm. I didn't get a response to that. But anyway, so, you know, we're up against it. So.
Okay, next question.
Yes.
Oh, so sorry to interrupt. So everybody go on to imdb.com and vote for us. Maybe we'll get to 4.
We will be the new algorithm.
Sorry, go ahead.
Obviously, you were very courageous in making the movie, as stated. Why did you make it? What precipitated you to go through a project that you knew was going to be as controversial as it is?
I'm a controversial person. So, no. In all honesty, when I first got presented the project, I was working on another film as an actor. The director came up to me after the first scene and said, Nick, you know, I like what you did in this scene, and I read about you, and I want to present you the idea of making a movie, another movie. I said, well, what's the idea? And he said, I want to make the movie Roe v. Wade. And my first reaction was said, well, if you know about me, you know I'm pro-life, why would I make a pro-choice movie? Because I think everyone in America has heard of Roe v. Wade, and everybody thinks it's the story of the legalization of abortion, a pro-choice story. But everyone has heard of it, but nobody knows the real story. And so when he started to tell me all the things that you saw on screen that happened, I was fascinated, not necessarily as a pro-life person, but as a filmmaker who thought it was going to be entertaining. I just didn't want to make a bland courtroom drama. And I said, wow, this is going to be entertaining, and it's the most famous court case in American history. I don't need to tell people what it's going to be about. And so I just couldn't believe no one had actually made it. And I thought it was going to be really easy to make. That was a mistake. But anyway, and that was, and then it also ended up, going along my belief system as well. So it made that doubly interesting for me.
Thank you. Next question.
Say, Nick, so you explained how a number of the players, the justices, et cetera, you had evidence that this is actually what they were thinking or saying. What about the media angle? There were a number of statements made with regard to either the leaks in the media. Was there documentation, either through biography or whatnot, that gave you the evidence to present in the movie?
Yeah, so everything we documented, so I don't know if you guys remember the beach scene. I talked about how we planted 4 pro-abortion stories every year, and I gave the months. Those were the months that we actually did it. I didn't make that up. Those pro-abortion stories were planted in those magazines on those exact months that I gave. And and the leak to the media about the hospital, not allowing more than 20 abortions, we really leaked that. And Bernard actually came out and admitted all of that, and we found out a lot of that. And then we researched all the dates that he said, and we looked them up, and we found them. So, all of that has been 100%. All claims of what media did has been 100% documented.
Nick, regarding criticisms, you said before you aired or showed us the movie that they're calling you liars about everything you put there, and they're criticizing that's not true, or that's embellished, or whatever. Can you speak to any specific scenes that they say, oh, that's not true, that's a lie?
Yeah. The most fascinating one, I thought, so the Daily Beast, which is a publication online, we were shooting, I don't know if you remember the scene in the Lincoln Memorial with Corbin Burnson, and he's having the argument with the other justice. So while we're shooting that scene, the Daily Beast had sent a reporter from LA to come to set and walk behind my actors in the middle of us shooting with a board writing down their lines. And and then he got his hand on a copy of a script, and they printed an article. And the most interesting part of the article, which I found, was they said, you know, Nick Loeb lied about Margaret Sanger. Although Margaret Sanger was a eugenicist, she was not a racist. Welcome to the media. I can go on and on, but that's the kind of stuff we're going to deal with. We gave some of the documentation at the end of the movie, like A Fortunate Abortion and Norma Corvey, and then we put a fact check link on our website. I mean, we documented down to the silliest things. I mean, people, oh, well, you guys are being silly by sending these guys off to St. Croix drinking daiquiris on the beach, and it was kind of goofy. That's exactly what these guys did. They went to St. Croix, drank daiquiris, and didn't start working to fight. And this came right out of Larry Lader and Bernard's book. The Margaret Sanger scene, another problem we also have with the fake media. So there is a Margaret Sanger picture out there with the KKK. It is a fake picture. And the problem, because that picture is fake, the media says the whole thing is fake. But that's not true. It was hard to read on the screen, but we wrote that scene with a burning cross, with women in hoods, in the woods, because that's what Margaret Sanger wrote in her book. So we wrote exactly, we wrote and we directed exactly as she described. But she's not a racist.
We will do one or two more questions. We don't want to. We could probably keep Nick here all night, but we don't want to do that to him. Let's get a couple more questions.
Well, as a racist and a fellow science denier, I have something totally unrelated to ask. Could you tell us if the gentleman that pulled up in the orange gremlin, who looked an awful lot like Roger Stone, was Roger Stone?
So we had a few cameos in our movie, some unrecognizable. That was Roger Stone, who has been a friend of mine for a long time, way before he went to jail. And he's still a friend of mine. Some you may have missed was Mike Lindell was in the movie before Mike got canceled. Tommy Lahren was in the movie. If nobody remembers, she played the daughter of Corbin Burnson, who argued with her father at the end of the movie. She played her, essentially herself. And then the British abortionist was Milo Yiannopoulos. A little bit of controversy.
I'm going to get one more hand in the air, and while I look for it, I will ask one more question of my own.
He's got this.
Back in the back? Got it. I'm on my
young
way
man.
to you. Let me talk while I come to you. Nick, you obviously explained that it was a 10-year conversion for Dr. Nathanson, and you had to do it in one scene. And the way you portrayed it in the scene is when he saw the ultrasound or the sonogram as he was working, he said, I killed my son. Did he write in the book, his book, or did he, in the silent scream, ever talk about the specific impact that killing his son had on him?
He did not. He did mention that he aborted his own child. I think he talked loosely about it, how all abortions had an effect on him, including that. But he didn't get into a lot of detail in that. And I think my gut, because is that I don't think he wanted to divulge who the woman was. Although there's only really two possibilities by the timeline.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Loeb, for a wonderful night, a fantastic film. I was wondering, do you have any stories from the cast talking about the bad media? Especially, do you have any of just the cast or especially friends you had on set reacting, especially if they were pro-choice, reacting to the bad media?
I think most of the cast just wanted to keep their head down. You know, I mean, you know, a lot of these guys are working actors. This is a living, and I think they just wanted to keep their head down, make a good movie, and not, you know, make waves. I mean, I can tell you some casts today won't do press because culture has changed so much in the last 6 months that they're petrified of getting canceled. And I don't think half the cast would have made the movie today. So a lot of them are very nervous. Some of them are not, but you know, I can say a couple are. Anyway, I'll be around that later. RoeVWadeMovie.com if you guys want to do a screening. I appreciate your time and thank you very much.
And IMDb. Let's get that rating back up where it belongs. Nick Loeb, thank you so very much for everything this evening. Everyone, please